Hey guys, welcome to this week's review of The Real Housewives of Potomac Reunion Part Duh. Oh my gosh, right? Like when Mia said, really, they brought Ascala out here to say 2 lines? Literally 30 seconds before that, I was thinking the exact same thing. That was rude. That was rude how they did Ascala. Like, this is part 2 and you're telling her to leave? We didn't even, we're not even halfway through part 2. You bring her out at the end of part 1. At the end of part 1. And then you remove her not even halfway through part 2. Like, that is disrespectful. You know? And okay, fine. Maybe Ascala wasn't in the middle of a lot of stuff, right? She didn't have a lot of storyline. She was still there. Like, Ascala, for the most part, was at every single event, right? So she may have not been the main person, but she has a perspective. She has something to add, right? Because they're going to talk about, what they're going to talk about. I think Ascala, why does she gotta go? Why she gotta go? Like, damn, at least give her a little bit more opportunity to, express herself. Like, does it cost anything for her to sit on the couch for at least, can she at least stay to the end of part 2? Can we say goodbye to her at the beginning of part 3? And it's like, she doesn't even get to meet Nicki Minaj. That's rude. Really? She's not gonna meet Nicki Minaj? Come on, the funny thing is Kathy from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think maybe they introduced her part 2, and this was a 4-part reunion, mind you, right? So I don't know, I can't remember. They probably introduced her in part 2, let's say. She did not leave that thing ever, right? She got to do the final toast. Usually the friend of the show, they kind of dismiss them before they do their closing remarks, right, of the housewives. But Kathy got to stay for that. I wonder why. But Ascala, they just send her off. I guess she's not going to be a full-time housewife. It's not really looking like that, right? But hopefully they bring her back as a friend. I did enjoy her as a friend. I mean, and we'll see, right? I'm not mad at Ascala. She's beautiful and she has great style, so I would like to see more of her. Moving on. Candace. Now, okay. I must admit, I have been hard on Candace. I have been, right? And this first half of the reunion, part 2, it showed, I did acknowledge it, but when you watch all the flashbacks and, you see it and it's clear in your face, you do realize that a lot of the ladies, these women are not nice, okay? They have all hit below the belt. They all have. They all at some point do too much, right? But I think the difference between the other ladies and Candace is that, for example, Giselle, right? Giselle can take a lot, okay? I hate to bring it up again, but the last reunion, Giselle really got it. She really did. And she just, sat there. She didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. She took it. She didn't even cry. Not at one point did I see tears in her eye. With housewives, right? And particularly with Candace, we know this, right? But with all housewives, there are moments where it's just too much from them and they have to get up and leave. They have to say, you know what, Andy, I need a moment. I just can't do this. And they get up. And they go to the dressing room and they cry. Or, they cuss out their makeup artists or whatever, saying, I'm sick of these ladies and da 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 da. They have that moment, right? There's nothing wrong with that moment. But Giselle has never had that moment. I know that's weird, but she's never had that moment where it's like, this is too much for me. I can't take this. Right? Where Candace will react. Candace is not just going to sit there. Candace may yell and scream and cause a scene. Candace may cry and walk away. And I think that's what the ladies don't like, right? Because in real life, this this group dynamic would be toxic. Like, you wouldn't want friends like this in real life. Like, this is not how you would want your relationships to look like with people, right? In an ideal world. But on a show like this, I mean, it's a reality show, right? So it is about drama. It is about having that back and forth, right? And it's like, okay, if this is our job, right? If this is what we're going to do, I want to make sure that you're safe in a way. I want to make sure that I can trust you. I want to make sure that we can have a back and forth. And I don't know, it's kind of like play fighting, right? Or sparring. As you could tell, I don't play sports, so it took me a while. But I guess sparring with somebody, right? Like, you give just enough, you know what I mean, to like test your skills and everything, but you're not trying to destroy the person. And I don't know, it's a fine line. It's a fine line, and I think all the ladies at some point have crossed that line, right? But I don't think the excuse of, well, everybody else does it, so I can do it too. And I'm the best at doing it, so I win. I don't think that mentality is necessarily helpful. Like, if you see the other ladies doing something and you acknowledge that it's wrong and you're hurt by it, then maybe you shouldn't try to replicate it or try to be the best at that thing, at that very same thing that you don't like in other people, because then you're the same thing. You're just like them. And I think it goes both ways. I think it goes for how the other ladies see Candace, right? And how Candace see the other ladies. I think they're all pretty similar and they all could learn from each other. I did like that with Candace and Giselle. I don't know. I do like their relationship because I feel like Giselle can challenge Candace and Candace can challenge Giselle. But by the end of that scene, you could tell that although they had a moment where they disagreed with each other, they were still, I don't know, you still felt like there was a bond between them, right? They didn't carry that beyond the scene. It's like, okay, I don't agree with you, but okay, I heard what you said, and we can still be cool. Like, I like that. That's kind of the relationships you want. And I guess that's for me when it comes to all the ladies. Like, it's great to see drama, but I don't know, you want to feel like the ladies do have a genuine relationship with each other. And maybe that's asking for too much, but you want to feel like they do have that sisterhood. As like Nene or whatever would like to say about like the Atlanta ladies, and you roll your eyes because it's like sisterhood. Yeah, right. This is a job, but it is a sisterhood. It is. Like, you gotta know how to play the game, I guess. But whatever. Moving on. Mia. I don't know. Mia needs to get off Twitter. It's like Mia's not perfect, but I was enjoying her. But then her Twitter presence makes me not really, I don't want to say it makes me not like her, but it makes me like, okay, fine. If you don't want to come back to this show, don't. Because now she's been tweeting and saying that she doesn't want to go back on the show because she got treated worse than any housewife of any franchise. And it's like, okay, fine, you could build a case. Could Mia build a case? Mia could build a case, right? Now, would I say she had the worst treatment out of any housewife? That's saying a lot. Do I want to take the time and list housewives that has had it worse than her? No, I really don't want to do that either. So it's like, okay, fine, right? But I don't know. I feel like she did bring on a lot. She did bring some stuff onto herself. You know what I mean? But yes, the ladies were judgmental. But it's like, I don't know. It's reality television at the same time. And it's like, this is not the first season of The Housewives. This is not the first city. There's plenty of cities. So you kind of know how the show goes. So if you've lived a scandalous life, right? And you are doing something that you know that, okay, it's kind of taboo. Wouldn't you expect that? I don't know. Is that terrible to say? Like, wouldn't you expect that there will be pushbacks and there will be people that may not like you and have criticism of you and how you live your life? Yeah, yeah. And maybe, I don't know, I guess instead of tweeting it, if Mia better communicated that with the other ladies, like, hey, ladies, you're hurting my feelings when you shame me for being a stripper and da 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 da, and they were to have a genuine conversation, then maybe they can move forward. But if you're just tweeting about it, I mean, it just comes off as petty and I don't know, this weird back and forth, nothing really gets resolved. And I guess maybe she thinks that, I don't know if it's like coming from a genuine place or if she thinks, okay, if I make a big stink on social media, then I'm guaranteed a spot next season. Like, I don't know what it is, but she needs to work on that. She does. Um, well, one last thing about Candace, right? They had a scene after they cut for break, and they had a scene with Wendy and Candace just talking, and it did seem like Candace sorta kinda was maybe acknowledging some of the stuff she, how she contributes to certain situations. It's like, yeah, you're good at it, but you do realize you're good at being mean. Like, and you're taking pride in that. Like, you're taking pride in the fact that you can cuss someone out and make them feel like crap. And you're like, I'm the best. I'm the wordsmith and like da 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 da. And it's like, why are you taking pride in cutting somebody down? You know what I mean? And I don't know, it's complicated, right? But I think she's starting to maybe kind of realize, okay, I do need to figure that out. But at the same time, at Candace is not wrong when she's calling out the other ladies. Like, she's not wrong at all. I think they all have to figure that out. Like, okay, how do I express myself and do my job but not cross that line with my coworkers or my sisters? I roll. Speaking of the devil, this is the first time that Giselle almost cried. Can you believe it, guys? Giselle almost cried. She's human. Wow. It was like I started crying. I started crying by the fact that Giselle almost started crying. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. And the reason why was because she respected Karen. That Karen, although she had issues with Giselle, she didn't take it out on her children. Like, she still showed kindness to her children. Right? I'm not a mom. I'm not a mom, so I can't. I mean, okay. I mean, she appreciated that. It was like, really? Your standards are kind of low. In a weird way. Like, okay, Karen wasn't mean to your children. Whatever. Okay, I'm being petty. She's allowed to feel that. And I do get that. It's like, okay, there's boundaries. You're not going to go below the belt. However, in that same scene, I'm sorry, I feel like, and I think Candace was vindicated in this moment because Karen, you went really below the belt, okay? You called her an alcoholic. You said she had a drug problem. You like those are heavy things. You were saying that she was a whore. You're saying that she was in Sing Sing. And now Karen is such a liar. Oh my god. Karen and Mia, no wonder Karen introduced Mia to the show because I think they are very, very similar to each other. Okay? Very similar. Karen Karen wants to say now, oh, I just made up Sing Sing, or I just said Sing Sing because, it sounded nice, right? Karen says terrible stuff, and then when she's confronted, she wants to act like it was all one big joke. Like, oh, I was just joking. Oh, I was just being silly and goofy. Sing Sing, Sing Sing just sounded nice to say. The reason she said Sing Sing was when she got the lingo wrong. She was saying that, well, the rumor is, allegedly, I don't know if this was true, right? But before Giselle and Jamal got married, right, he would cheat on her a lot still, right? And he cheated on her so much that she had a mental breakdown and she had to go to an institution. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know if this is true or not. This could be completely false, right? But Karen is bringing on that rumor to the show. From the blogs, Karen is bringing the rumor to the show, right? So it's like funny that, like, do you understand where Candace is looking at everybody like, you guys all do this. You guys all do this to each other, where you take things from the blog and you bring them onto the show, right? But then Karen wants to take a step back because she realized, oh my gosh, if, I start talking about how Jamal cheated on Giselle and how she had, a mental breakdown, right? And, we're getting to a place where we're not looking down on getting, mental help or talking to a therapist, right? It's actually taboo now if you put down people that have, you know, are bipolar or dealt with depression. You look like the bad guy, right? So I think Karen realized that, so she's trying to walk it back. But I would prefer Karen just own it and Karen just say, you know what? That's what I was trying to say. I mean, no, I think she doesn't want to say it on camera, so her way of just dodging it is to be like, ha ha ha, I thought it was just a silly game, out of respect, maybe. And I get that, but it's like, we all know you're lying right now. We all know what you were trying to say, So it's like, to be honest, I just went on this spiel, but I think Karen, it's a pattern with you, but when it comes to this instance, I rather us not really talk about it either, because I just don't think that Giselle almost cried here, and this was the first time out of like 6 seasons she's kind of showed that kind of emotion, right? So I definitely, if Giselle had some mental breakdown and she was in an institution and Giselle is definitely not in that place to talk about it or to deal with that on camera. And you know what? It's none of my business. It's none of my business. If she's not ready to share that part of her life, then you know what? Let's not talk about it. So, it is what it is. Overall, rambling. I'm glad that Karen and Giselle are in a good place. And listen, Giselle, Karen, if you want Candace to listen to you and what you have to say because you may have good advice for her, you guys gotta listen to Candace. Candace was reading them in that moment and like pointing out this is where you guys are being hypocrites, right? Just because I react and you don't react doesn't, or you treat it as a joke, or you try to minimize it and think that your shade is fun shade, but my shade is too much, right? Like, who are you to decide? Because your shade and my shade are sounding very similar to each other. So what's the difference? You know what I mean? And I'm glad that they acknowledge that, okay, let's move forward with each other, where we are going to still shade each other, but we're not going to go so gutter. We're not going to go so below the belt. Because everybody's sick of it. Like they said, I'm sick of seeing that. So I'm glad that they're in a better place with each other. Ashley and Michael. It's like, to be honest with you, I'm not too interested in their dynamic simply because I don't like it. Is that a good reason? I don't know. I just don't think they're great for each other, right? So to kind of see them interact is almost cringe. So it's like I'm not really too invested in their dynamic because I know no matter what, Ashley is just going to make excuses for his behavior and justify it. She doesn't see an issue, right? Like when Andy asked her that, people watching the show, including myself, felt that, I don't know, the way he spoke to her about her body, right? And like, listen, I guess in one hand you can say at least they're honest, at least he's honest that in order for him to be attracted to Ashley, she has to look a certain way. But then on the flip side, it's like she just kind of had a baby and now she's feeling that pressure to, I don't know, it's like she's being reduced down to how attractive she is all the time. And I don't know, you don't want to see someone being reduced down to that. It doesn't feel good to see that. But at the same time, I don't get the impression that she wants to leave the situation. She seems happy in that situation. So it is kind of sad to watch. I'm going to be honest. And maybe I'm projecting what I think is going to happen. But I don't know. From what I've seen of this relationship so far, I don't feel like it's the healthiest. But I don't know. I don't know which YouTuber I heard said this, but then allegedly she's trying to have a third child. So it's like she's enmeshing herself more into it. So it's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then that's your life. But, ugh, right? Because even, I don't know. I don't know. It's their relationship. If that's what she wants to do, that's what she wants to do. I'll just leave it at that. Ashley and Candace. And this whole colorism thing on top of that. My personal opinion, yeah, I think colorism is at play. I think it's just a layer, right? I think there's plenty of different, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. There are plenty of layers, right? And I think colorism is a layer to it, but I don't think it justifies or excuses all behavior, right? I don't think that there may be colorism involved when it comes to Candace, right? But that's not an excuse for her to just say whatever she wants and be really mean and nasty, basically, if that makes any sense. Like, you can acknowledge that and recognize when you are kind of letting yourself fall into that. And you are repeating some of the same behaviors that you have a problem with, right? So she has to acknowledge that within herself and try to, be aligned with what she thinks is the right way to act and treat people. She has to make that decision for herself and her own behavior. At the same time, with Ashley, like, I get Candace's frustration, right? And I was so annoyed with Robin when Robin was trying to be like, well, can you receive that Ashley wasn't trying to hurt you when she, wrote a letter about you for Monique in Monique's lawsuit or whatever against you. She didn't mean to hurt you. She was just, I don't know what she was just trying to do, but it's like, that's disingenuous to me. You have to have known writing that letter for Monique against Candace, right? You would have to have known that that was going to hurt Candace, right? And even if you didn't know, now that Candace told you that that really hurt me, right? Which I think Candace really should have just said this a lot earlier. And wish Candace would have more of these conversations versus just, cussing people out and reading people and shading people. I would like to see her have more of these moments where she's just straight up and honest, being like, you hurt me when you did X, Y, and Z. That's just way more productive. And it's interesting too. It's interesting as someone watching to kind of see, okay, how are they gonna find resolution, right? But how is Candace supposed to get there? She could still get there, but it's really hard for her to get there when Ashley doesn't acknowledge what she was trying to do, when Ashley is being disingenuous. And not only is Ashley being disingenuous, you have Robin there agreeing with her, and you have Giselle there being like, well, she wasn't trying to hurt you, even Karen to a certain extent, right? You have all these ladies who happen to be the light skinned ones, telling Candace she didn't mean to hurt you when we all can see that she did. That's why she did it, because she wanted to hurt you. Now I think a little bit of why Ashley did it, because we all know the conspiracy theory of Monique has that videotape of Michael Darby grabbing someone's butt, okay? And Monique got rid of that tape, allegedly, right? So who knows, Ashley may have been in a position where she didn't really have, she had a choice, of course, but she did it not really to hurt Candace, but she did it because she felt like she had to in order to repay her debt to Monique, right? She felt like she has that loyalty towards her, right? And I can understand that if that is your position, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge that Candace would be hurt by that. It's like, duh, of course she's gonna be hurt. And when the other ladies try to be like, well, she didn't mean to. Well, just because someone didn't mean to hurt you, that doesn't mean that they didn't hurt you. People do hurt you and they don't mean to hurt you all the time. Like, that's not an excuse. It's more so this, like, is Ashley going to acknowledge that so they can move forward? And I think if Ashley doesn't do that, it's going to be really hard for them to heal, right? But the same thing with Candace. Candace also has to acknowledge things that she said to Ashley, that, like, when Ashley was like, you called me a slave, and Candace wanted to deny it. Now, Candace didn't directly call Ashley a slave, but she did infer it by saying your overseer. So if someone is your overseer, right? If someone is your slave master, then one could assume that you are a slave, right? So she didn't say it directly, but you implied it. And to deny it and kind of nitpick and play, semantics, to be like, well, those are not the exact words I used. I didn't say it exactly like that. It's like, that's irrelevant. Like, you know what you were saying. Just own it at this point and own how that was hurtful to that person. And I feel like until they both do that for each other, I feel like they're gonna keep butting heads. And maybe that's just what they're gonna have to do for now. I don't know. But they are definitely the new Giselle and Karen. And if Giselle and Karen can move forward, then I definitely think Candace and Ashley could move forward and figure it out. Now moving on to Wendy. Wonder. Now, okay. I can understand where Robin and Giselle were coming from in saying that, hey, Wendy changed. She doesn't feel like the same person she was last year. What's going on? I can understand them having the need to address that, but the way they addressed that was very condescending, okay, very patronizing, very insulting. They didn't really approach it in a genuine way of, okay, you changed and we want to understand why. Why has Wendy changed? And if they had asked Wendy that, Wendy may have said, look, a lot of who I was before was to impress my mom and make my mom happy. But now, for the first time, I'm in a position where I can do what I want to do. So I'm trying to I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to get in alignment to what I want and whatever. So you may have noticed that I shifted and I changed, right? And then Giselle and Robin would be like, "Oh, okay, we get it. We see." Now, they may not have to accept that. They may not like that, but they could at least respect it or understand it or know where it comes from, right? But the way that Giselle and Robin approached that conversation, it was from a place of judgment. It was like, you changed, therefore something must be wrong. Not that you changed, not necessarily for the better, not to put a judgment on it that someone has to change for the better or for the worse, but you automatically assumed it was for the worse. You automatically assumed she changed because she was insecure. How about maybe she changed because she's becoming more secure in who she is? So she has less shame in expressing herself. And yeah, that looks different, but that's not necessarily a problem. But you're not going to know that unless you have that conversation with that person. But like I said, by saying, oh, you're more loose. And Robin says, well, that was the wrong word. I didn't mean to say loose. What I was trying to say is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's what you were trying to say, but what did you communicate? You told her she was loose. And the way Robin was saying it, I didn't receive it as she's more free spirited. When you say loose, there's a negative connotation there. And then the way that Robin said it, she and Giselle, the way they were talking about Wendy changing was in a negative way. Like you felt that as an audience member. And I think Giselle and Robin need to own that. They're very much in denial. And it's like, usually I would see Robin as the voice of reasoning, and she has her moments, but when it comes to this Wendy thing and when it comes to her defending Ashley to Candace, I don't know. She's not able to receive that if people are taking you a certain way, if people keep interpreting you as one way, like maybe you need to take a step back and reflect to as what, like, you can't just say Wendy's crazy for getting upset or that Wendy's being too sensitive. Maybe the way that you've been talking to Wendy and dealing with Wendy has been insensitive, has been rude to her. Like, just acknowledge that. You may not, that may not have been your intention, but that's what you did. So just say sorry. And I feel like then they would be able to move forward. But because Robin doesn't want to own it, Robin just wants to like act like Wendy is the bad guy, they can't find resolve because they both feel like the victim in the situation. Um, I do think that Wendy maybe took out her anger onto Robin. I don't think Robin really did too much to Wendy, but because Robin is associated with Giselle, Wendy just decided to lash out at her as well. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't feel like either one is in a position right now to kind of be humble and acknowledge their role to play in their fight. I feel like they're still trying to convince each other that what you did was wrong instead of acknowledging what they may have did that was wrong. You know what I mean? So, moving on. Um, hmm. So, what else did they talk? Okay, the rumors, right? And the blogs and what Giselle was trying to say, right? And I don't know if I believe this, but what Giselle said she was trying to say or trying to do was she acknowledges that it must be hard for her since she's a relatively new housewife, right? To be on the show and have blogs talk crap about you. That's not true, right? It must be hard for you that they just go and they make up any little thing and da 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 da. And she was saying that maybe because Wendy did get a lot of, I don't want to say hate, but kind of last year. She did. I People liked Wendy, but then she also got a lot of people that were like, "No, I'm not feeling her." And maybe Giselle was thinking the reason why Wendy changed was because she was trying to get social media to like her, right? She was trying to like be hot and be accepted in the eyes of social media. I think that's what Giselle was trying to say. I don't know. Maybe I got that twisted, right? That could be a valid conversation to have with somebody, but the way that Giselle handled the situation, it didn't communicate that at all. It really didn't. I still kind of feel like because it is reality television and is kind of your job, if certain things do get talked about in the blogs, I'm sorry, this may sound terrible, but I still feel like it has to be addressed on the show in some capacity. Not every single thing, do not get me wrong, but you have to at least, unfortunately, kind of deny it or accept it or whatever. I think moving forward, it's best that when these situations come up, that maybe instead of ignoring them, especially if they are getting a lot of traction, right? And a lot of people are talking about them, and especially when you're new and we don't know too much about you, and you have these people out here spreading all these lies. I do think it is helpful to address them. It is helpful to just maybe quickly say this is not true. Like to take control of that narrative, right? Instead of trying to sweep it under the rug and then have other people like Giselle who will try to use that against you for a storyline or for a moment. It's like, take charge of that, right? So, just wrapping it up, like, I've just noticed Karen, Giselle, Robin, Ashley, what I've noticed with them, and with all of them, with Candace too, they don't want to take accountability for the ways that they hurt people. They're only able to see how people hurt them, but they're not able to see how they hurt other people. And when someone says, "It hurt me when you did that," they try to make up excuses and try to rationalize it and try to make it like, "Well, we were trying to help you. That's why. We were concerned about you." Or you be like Karen, like, "Oh, I was just joking. I was just being playful. Me, I just say whatever." Even with the whole thing with the candles and the, "Oh, mine has 3 wicks and Wendy's only has 1 wick." It's one of those things that we do laugh at. We think it's petty. We think it's a joke. Ha ha ha. But when you take a moment and you really look at that, it is a quote unquote joke, but it's not a joke, right? Karen is someone that constantly needs to feel superior than other people, and she's constantly putting other people down. That's not cute. I'm sorry, right? It's not. So I'm just noticing all these ladies kind of, they do their stuff. They do their stuff, and maybe they all need to kind of reflect and look at the things that they do and try to, I don't know, change that if they want. Um, Overall, I know I've been rambling. Overall, you know what? This was a good part two. I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed part one and I enjoyed part two. And then it seems like from the previews, Nicki Minaj is going to come out. Because I was wondering, like, are they going to save her for the fourth part? Or are they going to bring her out the second or the third? But it seems like they're probably going to bring her out near the end of the third, right? Which is fair. And I was at first I'm like, why do they have four parts? Ugh. But the way it is going, I don't mind it. I can see now why they would probably have four parts because they're gonna bring out the husbands and then after that Nicki Minaj. So you know what? I'm looking forward to it. I am. I'm excited. This was a good episode. So that was everything, guys. See ya.